Hello and welcome to Creator Weekly Live for December 17th, 2023. I'm Peggy Kay, and today there are updates for YouTube, Twitch, for website owners. There's a fun game you can play to show what you know about search, and new tool that you can make a new website for yourself or your business for free. So let me get started and say, of course, the first thing we're talking about is the holidays. It's the holiday season. And if you make shorts on YouTube, you might want to try making them with the holidays with shorts hashtag. That lets you sort of get in on the whole holiday spirit. And YouTube has some suggested holiday songs you can use for your shorts. The reason why you might want to use these is people actually look for content with the song rather than looking for content and then it happens to have the song. So if you use the most popular songs, people may see your content. And if you look at the article on the YouTube blog, it has some suggestions for what you can do. So hopefully that gets you into the holiday spirit. Welcome everyone to the live chat and happy holidays. I hope everyone is having an excellent weekend and is getting into the holiday spirit. So the first update I wanted to talk about today for YouTube is one that I think will make a lot of folks who run memberships on their channels pretty happy. If you have channel memberships, you can now share gift memberships for free with your viewers every month. You can have 2 batches of 5 free memberships. That means that 10 of your fans can have a membership every month. The gift memberships are good for 1 month. So it kind of gives people a taste of what being a member on your channel is like. And there's a couple limitations you should know about. You have to offer a membership tier below $5 to do that, because when you gift the memberships, it's the lower tier memberships that are gifted. The other thing that you need to know is that this does not currently work if your YouTube channel is on a brand account, or actually if the people you're gifting have their channel on the brand account either. So it says in this notice, free of charge gift memberships are currently not available for brand accounts. And then you can follow the steps to see if that applies to your channel. Hopefully YouTube will get that sorted out, because a lot of people do have channels on brand accounts. The other update from YouTube is also for members. If someone pays to be a member of your channel, they get special perks. That's what they're paying for. There is a new perk that's been rolling out, which I think is kind of nice. It's called Members Only Early Access. And what that lets you do is upload a video to members only early access first. The option is members only to public. And the idea is that it's uploaded and it's set to become public on a particular date and time, but members can view the video before it becomes public. Again, greetings to everyone who is in the live chat today. It's really great to see you. I hope you're having a great weekend. And I'd love to know what you think about this week's updates. So for YouTube, the updates are a special holiday hashtag for shorts and some updates for channels that have memberships enabled. I'm going to switch over now to a couple updates on Twitch. And the first update is that Twitch is retiring squad stream. This is a way that live streamers could go live sort of together at the same time. The idea was that you would see, sort of a grid of the different streamers. They were all playing the same game, whatever. Apparently it didn't really catch on very well. And so Twitch is shutting it down. But they do still have a collaborative option, which is called Stream Together. This is currently in beta, and it was formerly called Guest Star. Stream Together is available to everyone, not just partners. And so this is a way you can collaborate with other Twitch streamers. And there are instructions in the Twitch Help Center how to set it all up. So if you are a Twitch streamer, you might want to check that out if you want to do collaborations. The other big thing that everyone's talking about for Twitch is that they updated their policy around sexual content. This is always something that gets a lot of angst, I guess you would say. A lot of Twitch gaming streamers and other streamers are upset that some other streamers seem to be able to post what you would consider sexual content, maybe implied nudity, that sort of thing, and there's no repercussions. And part of the problem was that Twitch's policy around sexual content wasn't that clear. So this week they made some clarifications, and the big change is that they are going to allow some content that was previously prohibited on Twitch is now allowed if you label it correctly. So label it as being sexual, and that way Twitch can know who should see this content. So this is covering content that's deliberately highlights breasts, buttocks, or the pelvic region, even when fully clothed, fictionalized or fully exposed, female presenting breasts or genitals or buttocks, regardless of their gender. That's for artists. Body writing has the same policy restrictions as body art, and erotic dances that involve disrobing or disrobing gestures. So like you look like you're doing a striptease. Those were previously prohibited, but are now allowed if they're labeled correctly. Popular dances such as twerking, grinding, and pole dancing are now allowed without a label, as long as they don't have any other content that needs to be labeled. This is also similar to a change that YouTube made this year. Those same kinds of dances are now no longer considered not advertiser friendly. I think it's just acknowledging that ordinary people do these kinds of dances and it's not seen as being super sexual. They do not allow content like that streams inside adult entertainment establishments and so forth, so the context matters. The other change that they're making is that the Twitch homepage will no longer recommend live streams or other content that is labeled with drugs, intoxication, or excessive tobacco use, violent and graphic depictions, gambling, or sexual themes. So they are allowing more content, and there are limitations on who will see it. And apologies for not showing my screen. I thought I was actually sharing. You can go to the FAQ on the Twitch safety site, and it will tell you exactly what is allowed and what is not allowed. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that this change in policy originally explicitly said that artistic depictions of nudity are allowed. And that's consistent with most other sites where if you have, a classical artwork that has nudity in it, that's actually okay. The context matters. But apparently what happened is that as soon as Twitch announced this, some of the people on Twitch started making fake nudes of other live streamers. They made nudes that looked like they were children, which is obviously not okay. And so because it was so blatantly not following the spirit of the policy, that was removed from the policies. So, some people ruin everything. It will be interesting to see if this makes people less upset about the sort of almost nude content that does pop up on Twitch occasionally. So let me just check my notes. And all right. So those are the big updates for video this week. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and talk about Google's big update this week to celebrate 25 years of Google search. It's a long time, right? I suspect some of you watching may not even realize there was a time before Google search. So to celebrate, Google has launched a couple fun things. There is the time capsule where you can take a quiz and it tells you what time period your favorite time is. Of course, just going back in the past 25 years. And the other thing that I thought was fun and really up my alley is this new game. You can access the game at searchplayground.google. No .com at the end, just searchplayground.google. And it's sort of like Where's Waldo, where you look for people or objects that represent the top trends in search. And there's a hidden game around Taylor Swift related items. It's kind of fun. And, it's a good way to spend the time. The only thing I will say is it looks like it doesn't actually save your gameplay, or at least it doesn't synchronize to your Google account. So if you start it and don't finish, you may want to keep the tab open on your browser. It does work fine on mobile, though. And I just wanted to take a second to remind everyone that you can get all the links and updates and tips in my weekly blog post or newsletter. There are links in the video description. And I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. It's great to see everybody talking. Craig says that he wasn't online before Google. That's interesting. I was online before Google, so I guess that makes me really old. And Diego says he hopes there's filters for that kind of content on Twitch. I think that is Twitch's intention, that people need to label their content, and then that allows filters. And I suspect that if you have an account that shows that you're under a certain age, you may not see some of this content by default. But we're talking about the old time internet. And some of you who maybe are as old as me, long ago, before there were forums, before there were social media platforms, there was Usenet. And you could go to various groups on Usenet, and there were all kinds of topics, technical topics. This was before a lot of tech companies had their own help forums. And there, of course, are lots of other topics. People use it for sharing binaries. That's files. Of course, some of that's illegal file sharing. Some people use it to discuss knitting or woodworking or their favorite hobby. It's really cool. So the big news is that effective February 15th, Google Groups will no longer support new Usenet content. And just to give you some context, Usenet is a decentralized network, but you have to be accessing it through software, of course, on a server. And many, many years ago, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but I'm thinking like maybe 2006. Google purchased the Usenet archives from another company called Deja. This other company was apparently failing, and so Google just scooped up their data, and they used it to populate Google Groups. These then showed historical Usenet discussions, and it allowed people to interact on Usenet itself. This then was a portal into the Usenet system. And Google Groups is not the only place that has an option to interact over Usenet, but it's probably one of the most popular places because it has this friendly web interface. I did a search. The search is not that great, which is kind of surprising for Google. And the earliest post that I made that you can find is something I posted on January 22nd, 1995. So 1995, 2005, 2015. That was coming up on close to 30 years ago. It was a really not very exciting question about setting up Apple computers. So this is what I used Usenet for partially. I also did post to more fun discussions. Diego says, wow, that was such a long time ago. Yes, indeed it was. And ancient times. So the big change that we're talking about is that Google will no longer work to retrieve new content from Usenet or let people post to Usenet. So that doesn't mean Usenet is going away. This is decentralized. It's still out there. Google does note that this change will not impact any non-Usenet content on Google Groups. Google Groups is mostly being used by Google right now to maintain mailing lists and permissions to Google Workspace documents and that sorts of things. And they have also said that they're not removing any of the historical content. So you'll still be able to look at the groups that are on Google Groups now and through the deadline in February. You just won't be able to post new content, and it's not going to synchronize with other Usenet servers, so you won't see new information. They say that what do you need to do if this affects you? Find a new Usenet client, find a new public Usenet server. You don't need to migrate any data because this is decentralized. And why is this happening? Usage has declined, they say, and a lot of it is spam. So, not surprising. Jolene says she started online in the late 80s. That is really at the beginning. So I imagine you have used a lot of these older platforms that didn't even give you nearly the information we have now, but were distributed, and it was kind of a friendlier time, it felt like, maybe. So those were the big updates this week. The last one I wanted to talk about from Google, if I can find the correct tab. And I will have to call up the correct tab because it's not open. The other big news item you should know about, if you are on the web, which all of you are, or if you have a website, is that Chrome is going to start testing default tracking protection in January. What does this mean? This means that with tracking protection on, it blocks third-party cookies. Now, this is not new in the world of browsers. I believe Firefox and Safari also both do this by default. The difference is that Chrome has such a huge user base. This is going to make a big difference. So what does this mean for website owners? If you have any widgets or embeds or anything that relies on third-party cookies, this eventually is going to have to be replaced by something that doesn't. Now, I will say that already there are issues. For example, on a Blogger blog, when someone leaves a comment, if being signed into a Google account is required to leave a comment on a Blogger blog, that usually requires a third-party cookie to be set so that the system knows that you're signed into the Google account. Otherwise, you end up having to sign in again to leave the comment. And this is not just hypothetical. This already happens when people are using Safari, for example. They may have trouble leaving comments. And it's not going to just affect Blogger. It's going to probably affect a lot of sites that are currently relying on cookies to remember when you're signed into an account. And of course, that's part of the reason why it's a privacy issue, that systems. Remember these things without you realizing it. So those are the big updates. If your account is randomly selected to be in this test, you may notice on Chrome that you have to sign into accounts more frequently. The last thing I wanted to tell you guys about is a brand new tool from Mozilla to create a website. Mozilla is, of course, the parent company of Firefox, and they do a bunch of other things too that you may not realize. They have set up a new platform. It's called Solo. It's aimed at what they call solopreneurs. So people who have their own business, freelancers, people whose business is themselves, basically. You could also use it for your hobby, anything. And it uses AI to create the website. So you can access this over on soloist.ai. It's SOLOIST.ai. So it lets you just input a bunch of information about what your website's going to be about, and then it generates ones for you. Pretty neat. And it is free. If you look at their FAQ, it says, what does Solo cost? It's free. There will eventually be a monthly fee if you want to have your own custom domain. But if you're thinking about creating a website for a project, you might want to give this a try. There's nothing to lose. And it'll be interesting to see what the AI tool suggests. I know personally I am a terrible designer. So I like themes, I like templates, and this could be kind of a neat thing. I'll probably play with it a little bit as well. It'll be interesting to see how much they charge for the custom domain, though. I think that's going to be sort of one of the make or break details. So those are all the updates this week. I'm just checking my notes. Yeah, those are all the updates I wanted to talk about this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll note that next Sunday, December 24th, is Christmas Eve. I'm not expecting there to be a lot of updates, but I will go live for a bit and wish everybody happy holidays. If you'd like to join me, I'd love to see you there. And otherwise, have a fantastic week. Happy holidays, everyone, and thank you for joining me today.